I can't believe I ever say this, but this chicken run smells really nice. What's up, everybody? This is Ben from the Urbstead, and today I'm going to be showing you the changeover process from the growing season to the winter season. Now, the exact details in terms of timing and the steps that you take could be a little different from what you're going to experience on your own land, but by and large, the strategy here can be implemented anywhere. So we have some chickens. That means we have chicken run and a chicken coop that need cleaned out periodically. We also have been doing our own composting here for this past year. So I'm going to be taking this finished compost and I'm going to be applying it to our raised beds. Then I'll wrap up with some chicken clean out of the current chicken coop and chicken run. It's going to be pretty simple, but when you have chickens and when you're doing composting and when you do a big garden every year, these are the kind of steps that you need to take to prepare your garden for the next year's worth of growth. Part of the process that I want to do here is in adding this compost back into the ground, I want to replenish all of the nutrients and minerals that were depleted this year as a result of growing vegetables. That way I don't have to use chemical additives and other fertilizers and instead use a more natural product. Sound good? So we're gonna see how it goes, and well, I'm just gonna get to it. It's just kind of like a chore that you have to do. Let's get after it. Let's go ahead and take this load out to the side yard, and we'll just we'll see how far it stretches. We're gonna sprinkle this over every bed, so might be more on some beds as we start and then less and less as we get through it. But I'm gonna try and give everything a little bit of love here. I'm leaving a layer on the bottom of the compost that I'll try and mix in with this other batch here that I flip over to this side, just in case this side needs a little bit more of the microbes and a little bit more of the inoculation that we did the first time we started building that. Right. So at this point, you're probably wondering, why didn't I take the beans down? And really it's kind of arbitrary, but there are a couple more beans left on the vines that look like they still have some action in them in terms of turning into seeds that I can save. So I'm gonna let those go. There's no real issue here except for visual. So just gonna let it be, and we'll get them on the next rip out. I'm going kind of light here on the tomato one. I just don't know how much I'm gonna use everywhere else, so. That is why. You might remember this is our sweet potato bed, and it was, and it did phenomenal. We got a lot of sweet potatoes. We're really happy about it. So I'm gonna try to probably do a heavier hand here with the compost that I put onto this bed, because I think we'll just plan to do the same thing here next year. These marigolds aren't quite done yet, dropping all their heads with all the seeds in them, so I'm just gonna let these guys go. I'm not gonna pull it out just yet. But as you can tell, you know, last year we had one marigold plant, huge, but still just one. It's everywhere, which I kind of love. It's beautiful and chaotic. I'm gonna leave this onion here, see what it does. Maybe it'll turn into something next year. Something's been digging up my garlic. Great. Could be my dog. All right, this is the end of the bucket, which is great. These really are the beds that I'm most worried about, because they're the heaviest producing, which means they get depleted the most. All right. I worked hard for this stuff. Use up every little bit. So I think I'm gonna make a game time call here and change up the plans. I just looked at the thermometer, and you can see it's sitting right about 74 degrees. It's 40 degrees out right now, so we know that there's some activity going on inside here. But from the past videos, you can already probably understand that 74 degrees is not great. In the past, I would have thought, wow, that's awesome. It's warmer than ambient. That means we're doing something. Yes. 2 days ago, I added in a whole bunch of wood chips covered in chicken poop from the bedding that we used for our meat birds. In those 2 days, I have not seen it get above 60 degrees, and now it's sitting at 74, which means we're going in the right direction. All that to say is, I don't think I'm going to disturb this bed if it is truly climbing up to an active compost. But now that we've cleaned out bay number 1, that's where we can go ahead and put all of the chicken run crap and the chicken coop bedding. My hope is that with the amount of compost we left over in bay 1, that would be plenty to inoculate the chicken poop that we're going to be adding to it. I don't know if it's going to be way too hot and if it's going to be way too nitrogen heavy. What I do know is that the chicken run needs cleaned out. So let's go ahead and do that. And instead of doing the turn here, let's try and let this continue to heat up as is without much more disturbance. The second I disturb this and flip it all over, everything goes back to 40 degrees and we start from ground zero. So let's just see what it does. Let this sit. use bay 1, and go forward. Come on out, girls. Crossy is the first one to cross the threshold. All right, so if you're wanting to know how good this smells, oh, just imagine the smell that made you throw up last. It's about it, right there. Woo! On the upside, it's wet, so it's coming up really easy. On the downside, it's wet, so it's vile. Ooh. For those of you wondering what's in this, is it just inches thick of poop? No, it's not just solid poop. In fact, there's so much organic matter still left over from every time I either dumped grass or dumped our compost into it. That stuff will all still need to break down even farther to get it into a compost state. So I think this stuff's gonna be really good. It's probably more than I can carry right now. So I'm gonna do a couple back and forth loads here. As you can see, there's gonna be about 5 loads from this container. So I'm gonna take all that over and then I'll bring you over and I'll show you what we're gonna do. We're gonna have to chop it up. Some of it's in these pretty compact sheets. And if we don't break that up, or at least break up most of that, it's not really gonna, the composting action's not really gonna get down into those little hard bricks. So that's where we'll start. Thankfully, a lot of it's moist. So once we start breaking it up, it really should start coming apart nicely. Woo, that's bad. All right, let's get after it. One more beautiful note to mention is because I'm doing it in shifts, I bet you by the time I get over there with the final shift, these chickens already have been scratching in it, which is going to be doing some of the work for us. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We love to see different parts of the system working together to synergize, cut down on overall effort, and increase overall effectivity. It's great. I'm going to attempt to bring you guys in here a little bit. Not too close. I don't want this tripod getting covered in poop, but you should be able to see a little better this time. All right. It would help if I brought the shovel in before this. Ugh. Here we go. Blah. What I'm aiming for is no splashback. You know what I mean? Excuse me. Forgot about you. Thank you, Jesus, for eggs. Or else no, wouldn't be in here. Ugh, this is bad. And I feel like I'm uncovering more stank as I go. Not quite done yet, but all of our chickens are nowhere to be found out in the main yard. So I bet they're over on this compost pile, and they are. So think about it. And I just caught 2 of them in the back there starting to dig. So that's what I'm talking about. That's also the reason that after I'm done building that compost pile, I'm going to cover it with plastic, or else they would just dig through everything, and any composting process would be absolutely futile. You're sitting here wondering what's this mess back here of all these rocks. No, I didn't make a jungle gym intentionally for our chickens, although that's a nice added benefit. All of this concrete block was basically besieged by rats. They dug tunnels under everything and they just caved in. And then they made their way into the chicken coop and got what they wanted, their prize, chicken food. So that's in a video. You can check that out here. I don't know if I just got used to it or what, but already the smell is much better in here. It's not all the poop. I didn't get 100% of everything, but I feel much better about this. The floor is predominantly cleaned off, and I'm ready for them to start the next layer. But you can see here, there's no real spots where it's caked up and super tall anymore. Best case scenario is when I get all these leaves raked up and everything, I'll be able to grind it all up and maybe put down a layer here as they're bedding. We'll get this dumped into the load back there, and then I'm going to go ahead and start on getting the bedding out of the coop. Last step, here we go. All right. Okay, so let's see here. Game time call number 2. Instead of taking the bedding and adding it into the compost pile, I'm actually going to throw this current bedding out into the chicken run to give them a little bit more friction to step on without maybe slipping on all of the wet poop. We just want to make sure that the chicken's legs are safe and they're not at a risk to tripping, falling, or breaking any of their legs. Julia just noticed that one of them sort of slipped a little bit, and I think it's a really good idea. She brought it up, so we're going to go ahead and execute that, and then we'll get to finishing out the compost pile. Let's do this. Now it's time to go get the fresh stuff and replace everything that we took out. All right, it'll be less dusty and it'll be fresher in here, which I'm sure the birds are ready for. So that's cleaned out, and we're ready to move on to the last step, which is mashing up the compost heap and watering it in maybe a little bit if it looks dry, then covering it up with black plastic and letting it go. On to the final stages, and it sounds like it is my turn to go ahead and hop over with the kids. So this will be completed on another day. All right, so this stuff's super hard, and I'm just gonna have to spend some time chopping it up. Beautiful red wigglers of all stages, little baby ones and big mamas. Great. Okay, so we're gonna get this weighed down with a couple of the logs here that we used last time. And now that this is weighed down, I dumped about 8 gallons of water on it, so that water should work out as well as drain down but work out into the material itself. Hopefully it'll soak into some of those harder patches, and hopefully I broke up most of those. You saw towards the end there, the mattock was really the most useful tool. The shovel, meh. The trench shovel a little bit better, and the fork wasn't really that great at all, but the mattock really got down and sliced that stuff up. This is finally put to rest. In a couple of days, I'm gonna come out here and check with the thermometer. I'll move it over just to see if this is getting active. I hope it is. It's been about 6 hours now since that first clip where I showed you what temperature it is, and it has finally got up to about 80 degrees, which tells me that it is going in the right direction. Just gotta wait a little bit longer on it. We cleaned out the chicken run, we cleaned out the chicken coop. We even cleaned out some of the garden beds over there. You saw me pulling some of the dead plants out as I was topping it with compost. We got a lot done. This is a typical stage every winter that we go through, and this is what it looks like. It might not look the same for you in your garden, it probably won't, but there's definitely some cycles that you will go through that will look similar, at least in the type of work that's going on. It's really easy to do. It's not a massive issue. What I'm gonna do in a couple weeks is I'll probably pick the rest of the dead plants, and then as things are starting to dry out, I'll bring it all over and we'll just have a big burn sometime mid-November. That'll be nice, having a nice fire while it's cold out, but it'll also take care of all of the excess woody material that our compost pile just isn't quite strong enough to handle. We also don't have a chipper, so we gotta kind of make do with what we have, as I always say. And if nothing else, you got to see me step into the most vile of places here on the Urbstead and do a full clean out. Thank you guys for coming around. Please leave a comment down below if you liked what you saw. Also subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like, and as always, grow on. And look at these girls. They are going to town on this mixture. I'm sure there's some food that was dropped and left over in those shavings. And also the leaves are going to be bringing in some other items, some nutrients, probably some bugs. And whatever it is, they are loving it.